We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and I'm so glad to be with you here this morning. It's a Monday, which means that we had a weekend. I hope that you enjoyed your weekend. I know that I did. Working with individual, we did an individual private intensive, and it was powerful. Very, very, very powerful. You know, as we always say, the key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. And when you focus on who you are as a person, striving to become the best version of yourself, it has a tremendous impact on your relationship. And so working with him this weekend and now working with her starting today for the next 3 days, man, I'm so excited. Listen, we want to know who you are and where you're tuning in from, what city, what state, what country, wherever you may be around the world. We want to hear from you, so make sure you shout us out and we will shout you out. Listen, we're in a new series today. Well, I don't know how far we'll go, but we'll go as far as we need to go. I want to talk to you about consistency in your marriage. You know, oftentimes when we're talking about being successful in life, there are certain attributes, there are certain behaviors, certain habits that you have to really exhibit in order to excel. But in the context of marriage, it is very similar. And so I want to talk to you about the power of consistency and what that looks like, because so many people complain that their spouse is just so inconsistent. And so we're going to delve into that. But before we do, just a couple quick announcements. We have new office hours. I've mentioned this before, but I want to go back into it. Monday through Thursday from 6 a.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. So wherever you may be around the world, if you just base it upon the Eastern Standard Time zone, you can know where you fit into these hours. Then Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and we are off Sundays. However, if it's an intensive, we're available 7 days a week. And we do this just to be able to accommodate people in all time zones within the states and around the world. You know, it's quite interesting. Many people feel as if they don't have practitioners in their local area, and so they have to go online and they have to begin to pursue someone from a distance, but the times don't match, work schedules, whatever the case may be. So as we're building our team, which we're very excited about, we are able to provide services for people no matter what time zone they're in, no matter what their work schedule is, because to go from 6 a.m. to midnight, I mean, that's serious, but that proves our dedication to you guys. And so listen, whether it's weekly sessions or whether it's an intensive, we are excited to be able to work with you. And on that note, this Friday, we start our last chance weekend. So for those of you who are coming, we're excited. We're now making preparations. It's going to be an incredible, incredible experience for all of you who are finding out for the first time, or maybe you've been vacillating back and forth trying to figure out, should we do it, should we not? And you still want to do it. There's still an opportunity to do so. We just got a couple emails yesterday. So listen, check this out, and we'll be back and get into today's topic. That's right. Last Chance Weekend. Excited for those who are coming. There's still room, so make sure you reach out to us at our website, couplesacademy.org. We would love to connect with you. Listen, I have a question for you. Do you love your wife? Do you love your husband? Well, what's the proof? How do we know that? Because when you met them, you did not love them, you just met them. How can we determine whether you love your husband or your wife? Is it just based upon a feeling? Because if we strip love down to a feeling or an emotion, how can we measure that? Because oftentimes in relationships, we say that we love our spouse, yet we do things that aren't consistent with the feeling that we say that we have. And so one of the ways to measure one's love for a spouse is through deed and action. Love is more than a feeling. It is an action word. It is based upon what you do. But oftentimes we think because we've done something, that is a demonstration of our love. But having done something some time ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago, when we said I do, isn't a measurement of love. Love is determined by what? The consistency of behavior. I can determine over a period of time if you truly are demonstrating love by what you do, not just by what you say. Think about it. If I go to the gym and I go in and I'm there for about 2.5 hours and I'm going in. I'm doing my cardio, I'm doing my weightlifting, I'm doing my stretching, and I come home. What results do I get? Nothing. All right, day two, I go to the gym and I'm there for 2 hours. I'm determined. I don't have distractions. I'm going in, I'm doing all the machines. What happens? Nothing. See, doing something once, doing something twice doesn't do anything. It produces nothing. But if I go to the gym consistent, matter of fact, I don't have to go for 2 hours. If I were to go for 30 minutes a day for a month, what would happen? I would see some type of change, some type of growth. And if I continued in that process over a period of time, I would see the results of. So oftentimes we're doing something and we're not seeing the instant results of what we're doing and we quit. We throw in the towel. We give up. We convince ourselves that it does not work. But it is the consistency that is the key to the breakthrough, your consistency, which is the key to your success. Now, imagine if you only went to the dentist once every 2 years. Well, you would have problems. Imagine if that was the only time you gave attention to your actual teeth. We have a problem here. The consistency of brushing your teeth daily for about 2 minutes a day will get you healthy teeth. Otherwise, you have rotted teeth, you have all types of issues because you're not consistent. We're about to celebrate Valentine's Day, right? And many of you men are excited because this is your opportunity, right? To get flowers and candies and gifts and have an amazing experience. Maybe you take it to a nice restaurant, you get that hotel. And what's the result? Nothing. Why? Because that's the only time you show up. Maybe on her birthday, if you remember it, or on Christmas. But then that day is shared by everyone else, so it's not unique to her. And so oftentimes we think that these grand gestures, these amazing experiences done inconsistently is enough to hold them over. It is not. It is your consistent behavior. It's not just the big things, though there's an appreciation for those big things. It's the little consistencies of life that make a major difference. And so all of this can be summarized in this statement. Check this out. If you are persistent, you will get it. If you are consistent, you will keep it. Now listen, many of us in the dating season, actually prior to dating when we first met each other, there was a pursuit, right? And sometimes individuals had to be persistent to go after, to prove oneself to be worthy. They began to date and court and woo and do all of these wonderful things. They were persistent in getting what they wanted. But the moment that the commitment took place, all of a sudden they stopped doing what they once did to get what they wanted. And so the lack of consistency creates the problem. The lack of consistency is what keeps a relationship intact. So doing something once and not over a period of time is not going to work. So your intensity is not what does it. It is your consistency. Being intense in the gym, being intense with a holiday, being intense in how you show up is nice, but it's the consistency in that relationship that makes all the difference in the world. So when we talk about this mathematical formula, what does it look like? Listen, small choices and consistency over a period of time equals results. And one of the main problems that spouses complain about when they come here is that, you know what, he's doing the right thing, but he's just not consistent. I mean, she's showing up, every now and then, but, it's a lackluster effort. They're doing it because they feel forced and they're just not consistent. So you give yourself a pat on the back because you did the right thing once. But Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says, and let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Meaning, listen, you're doing the right thing, but it says, don't get weary. Don't get tired of doing the right thing. For in due season. Now, we don't know when due season is. Due season may be a month from now. Due season may be 6 months from now. I don't know when due season is, but don't get weary in well doing, for in due season you will reap a harvest if you faint not. If you don't give up, cave in the towel, or cave in, throw in the towel, call it quits. If you are consistent in the right things, things will work out for you. If you're consistent in doing the wrong things, then you will suffer in your relationship. So it's a focus on being consistent in doing the right things and also focusing on no longer doing the wrong things, because any one wrong can cancel out all the right that you do. And that's why this is so critically important in order to succeed. Now, here's the question. How do I know if I'm being consistent enough? How do I know if I'm meeting my partner's expectations? There's a phenomenal book called The Compound Effect. And in this particular book, it talks about when you do things over a period of time, you're compounding. Like, just think about money. If you put money into an investment account and you keep putting it in regularly, right, and it's gaining interest, it's compounding and compounding and compounding. And there's a quantum exponential growth that takes place. Well, the same thing takes place in your relationship when you're consistent in doing the right things. It's not addition. It's multiplication. Does that make sense? And so in this particular book, he talks about the power of tracking performance. He says that the first step towards consistency is awareness. The best way to become aware is to measure your actions. Writing down what you do is the key. Tracking your progress and missteps is imperative for long-term success in a relationship. All successful spouses are trackers, meaning trackers of their progress. You cannot improve something until you measure it. So there's got to be a metric in place to determine how successful you are. If I ask you how much you weigh, you get on a scale. The scale is a metric. If I ask you how much money you have, you look in your bank account. The bank account is your metric, right? It is the measurement of what you have. Likewise, when you have a journal where you're tracking what you're doing consistently, it is a metric of your performance. So I can look in this journal and I could say, when was the last time that you XYZ to your spouse? It was about 2 weeks ago on a Thursday. 2 weeks ago, where's the consistency in that? You've got to be consistent. So in essence, you have a to-do list of the things that you want to do daily. And so if I look in your journal, I see, yep, Monday done, Tuesday done, Wednesday done, Thursday done, Friday done. And planting those seeds, it'll produce a harvest. Now, when you're planting seeds, you can't plant a seed on a Monday and produce a harvest on a Tuesday. There is a process of growth right? This is what we call the germination process. When you sow enough seeds, something's happening under the earth that we aren't aware of. But in time, if you're watering the land, if you're nurturing the soil, if you're allowing the sunlight to hit it, if you're doing all the things on a daily and consistent basis to ensure the development of that particular fruit, the harvest of that fruit, it will come to pass. But your focus is making the deposits. That's all you're here to do. Your daily deposits into your spouse's life, it's what's critical. And don't expect a reaction instantaneously. Don't expect a change overnight. It will happen over time, because just as you plant a seed in the soil and you're not quite sure what is happening underneath the earth, but you know something's sprouting, roots are developing, something's taking place, and boom, in due season, there's a harvest. When you plant seeds into your spouse's heart. Now, we talk about this all the time. Oftentimes, as men, for instance, we want to penetrate our wives physically. But if you penetrate her heart and you're planting seeds of love, whatever it is that she's longing for, and you plant it in, don't expect an instant reaction. And that's when we get frustrated, because we want to be celebrated and we want to be reciprocated. Well, I did for you. Why don't you do for me now? There is a season when you're going to have to do something without expecting anything in return. Because if you understand the law of sowing and reaping, that is what it is. So it's not, I plant a seed, I get a harvest. I plant a seed, I get a... You're going to have to plant an incalculable number of seeds over a period of time. And there's a germination process that takes place. And then boom, all of a sudden, there's the leaf, there's the fruit, everything began to harvest, and I see it, man, but it was the consistency of it. If I had not done that and planted a seed in the ground and anticipated something changing, that seed would have died in the ground. And that is the problem, folks. That is the problem. Our seeds are dying in the ground because we're not taking the time to properly harvest the soil. So it is with your consistency that all of these things take place. Now, I'm going to give you the steps. I'm just laying a foundation for you, and I hope that this is helping. But listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back in just a second. Pay attention to this commercial. And we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Listen, guys, we're so happy to have you. There's so many people. If I literally called out everybody's name, we wouldn't have any time left in this show. But we appreciate all of you for tuning in. We love you. We thank you for your comments. And thank you, Gonzalez. I appreciated a couple of questions that come in. And he said, if they don't get to your question, don't worry. Tune in tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Ask the Experts. That's when we take the time to really honor your question and unpack it in a comprehensive way. And what happens is it's not just me giving feedback. We have a team of experts that all weigh in to that particular question to address your situation, to give you what you need, to make it comprehensive. That's what we do because we care about you. To give you a 30-second soundbite answer and just race through questions wouldn't serve you, and we want to serve you best. So make sure if you're not tuning in, you subscribe to the channel and you get notifications every time we go live. But listen, guys, we're talking about consistency in your marriage. So I want to give you a couple steps, right, that will help you to be more consistent. Now, what I would like to know before we get started, are you struggling with consistency? Is that your problem? Is it not that you don't know what to do, but for some reason you don't have the motivation, you don't have the drive, you don't have the desire because it's not really your thing. This is what your spouse wants. It's not what you want. So you don't feel compelled to do it. I mean, you love your spouse, but it's just like, really, does it have to take all this work? And why does it have to be all of this? And can we just be easy? And can't things just flow? And the reality is, if you want to be successful in your career, you have to be consistent. If you want to be successful in your education, you have to be consistent. You got to go to class, right? You got to study. You have to do all of these things, right? You're sowing seeds. You're making deposits in order to receive what a harvest, a return on all of your efforts. The same thing exists in your marriage. But what we find is that people show up in the world and they bring the best of who they are to everybody in every situation, and they show up with the least of who they are when it comes to their spouse, because they should just get it. It shouldn't take all of that. Now, you signed up for the rest of your life together. And so your spouse should settle for the least, for the minimal? No. Your spouse should get the most. Like, real talk, your spouse is your primary relationship, is your primary focus. Everything else should accommodate your primary focus. And when you put this effort in, I'm telling you, things will change. The problem is many of us have been married for so long, but our relationship, it's like dry bones. There's no life. There's no nutrients. There's no harvest. There's nothing. There's, you know, as they say, the grass is greener on the other side. Yeah, because supposedly maybe other people are sowing into their own gardens. But if you are not, your garden will dry up. Oh yes, that green grass will turn brown. That brown grass will stop growing, and now you got dirt patches all over the place, and you got weeds, and you got all types of situations going. As a matter of fact, a service provider just pulled into the driveway. Guess who it is? Terminex. Terminex comes every few months to make sure that the grounds and the grass and everything in the environment is maintained so that termites don't take over, other insects and rodents don't take over. So it requires maintenance. And so if they came once a year, it would be a problem. They have to come consistently, and we have to do things in between those visits in order to maintain what it is that we want. And so if you want an amazing relationship, you have to sow seeds into that relationship to make it what it is, and it requires your consistency. So let me give you a couple tips that are going to help you. Number one, in terms of how to be consistent, and I'm not just talking to the men, I've used men as examples, but wives, I'm talking to you too. This is not a one-way transactional relationship. This is a mutually beneficial relationship where both of you have to serve one another, do for one another, sow seed into one another so that both of you are satisfied. Does that make sense? Because when you're both happy, you both win. So what are the tips? Number one, make your goals manageable. Listen, sit down with your spouse and ask your spouse, babe, what area of my life do you want me to be more consistent in that will have the greatest impact on our marriage? What is that area? What am I doing right but not doing often enough? Or what am I not doing that you would like me to do and to do it consistently? Whatever that is, that's step number one. Whatever that is, once you know what it is, come up with a plan, okay? And make sure your goals are manageable. So listen, we talk about Goals. We talk about this all the time. And there are A goals, B goals, and C goals. A type goals are really goals that you write down. They're just checkoffs. Like doesn't you know you can accomplish it. It's just a matter of getting it done. So A goals are I know I can do it. I just need to do it. B goals is I think I can accomplish this if situations are right or if these things happen. I think I can accomplish these things, right? And then C goals is I don't know how in the world I'm going to accomplish. I don't have any thought. I don't have the resources. I don't know if I have the competence to accomplish these goals. And so maybe there are some impossible goals for your marriage that you don't even think is possible. But you should still have them because there's got to be something that you're reaching for, no matter how impossible you think it is. But whatever that huge goal is, you got to break that thing down into bite-sized pieces and make it manageable, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with what? Just one step. So what is the first logical step that I can take in terms of accomplishing the goal that you feel that I need to step up in to be more consistent in? Does that make sense? So find out from your spouse what it is they want you to be consistent in, and then create goals that are manageable, dare I say trackable, so you're making steps forward. Number 2, don't expect yourself to be perfect. Now listen, whenever you're doing something that you've never done, it takes time to get used to it. It takes time to get into the rhythm, into the flow. And so you don't want to be legalistic. You don't want to beat yourself up. You don't want to have just unrealistic, high expectations for something you've never done. Both of you have to give each other grace in this space, so it will keep your spouse motivated to continue to do. Because if for whatever reason, in the attempt, it isn't done quite perfectly, and then the spouse comes and attacks, why aren't you doing? See, that's the problem. You're doing it wrong and you need to do it. It demotivates. It demotivates. People are motivated to do things when they are inspired, when they are encouraged, not when they're criticized and shut down. Okay, so don't expect your spouse to be perfect. Don't expect yourself to be perfect, but just realize with that imperfection, it is the effort and it's the forward movement that makes a difference. If you remember, John Maxwell, excellent leadership author and speaker, he wrote a book called Failing Forward. And guess what? With this goal, I may not get it right, but as long as I'm moving in a forward direction, I'm much further than where I was yesterday. And the consistency of doing these things over and over and over again, I will get there. Even with my failed attempts, I will get there. Now, let me qualify what I mean by failure. If I have a goal for 10 and I wind up at 8, I didn't meet 10. I got 8. So I failed to get 10, but I'm much further because I was at 0. Now I'm at 8. Now the next day I have another goal for 10. I don't get there, right? I failed in getting 10, yet I'm successful in moving forward. As long as I'm moving forward over time, I'm going to get there because all it requires is consistency in the first place. Let's go to the next point. Use positive instead of negative self-talk. It reminds me of the little choo-choo train story that many of you, maybe I'm, identifying my age, but you know that choo-choo train story, that book you read, I think I can. The train with the caboose, he had to continue to talk to himself. And oftentimes we succeed or we are defeated first in our minds. We've talked about this before, the power of the mind. Every habit, every addiction, every bad behavior is right here in the mind. Every successful accomplishment, every form of discipline and consistency is where? Right here in the mind. The body just follows the instructions that the mind gives it. So building up your mind by constantly speaking positive talk. Now listen, there's a scripture in the Bible that says that faith cometh by hearing and hearing, which speaks to repetition. So I build up my faith by speaking positive things, by speaking the word, by tuning into examples and stories of success that motivate me, that will encourage me to move forward, by associating myself with people who have succeeded and done it. And so constantly insulating myself in such an environment, it builds up my confidence, it builds up my belief that positive self-talk will keep me consistent in doing the right thing. thing. But because we think 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and oftentimes they are these negative dominating thoughts that we have about ourselves and about our spouse and about our situation, we feel demotivated. And so now it's an internal struggle where we're fighting against ourselves to get something done because I just don't feel like it, and I'm not feeling this, and I just don't have a positive outlook on this, and my thinking and my belief system is it's not going to work anyway, and it's just pointless. See all that negative self-talk? That negative self-talk will sabotage your efforts in doing the right thing. So you got to make sure that you have a belief system and that you have a philosophy that supports your behavior, because the philosophy and the belief system supporting that behavior allows that behavior to be accomplished easier than if you have a philosophy and a belief system and a mindset that is counter what the behavior is, because you will give up, throw in the towel, call it quits, because you're like, this is just pointless. I'm doing all these things. I'm just checking boxes. I'm going through the motions. I don't even believe it. Why? Because you have negative, doubtful self-talk. And when you get this right here intact, in order, everything begins to change. Man, this is getting good, but we've just run out of time. Listen, guys, I hope that you're getting something out of this conversation. We're talking about consistency in your marriage. We're going to pick up tomorrow and go a little bit deeper. I hope that you got something out of it. For all those that have questions, make sure you tune in tonight for Ask the Experts, and we'll go a little bit deep dive. But until then, love you guys. Have a great day. And if you're interested in any of our programs or services or intensives, just reach out to us. Let's have a conversation and see how we can be of service to you. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.